Welcome to a discussion of your problems. And if you were to count them up, there'd be quite a few. Would there not be problems that you never talk to anyone about? Problems that you don't talk to yourself about because you're afraid of the answer you'll give yourself? Problems of wondering what people think of you? Problems that maybe you can't handle the day, which you know inside yourself you cannot handle. All these things pressing down on you. Why? I'm asking you a question at the very start. Why do you accept that kind of a life for yourself? Worried about everything. Worried about the stranger you see passing on a busy street. He looks at you in a certain way. You get a certain phone call or a letter and your mind goes into an interpretation of it. An interpretation that it's going to cause difficulty for you. You don't find much rest, do you? You don't have much command of your life, do you? All you have is a churning inwardly that takes you nowhere, exactly nowhere. That's all right. It's all right because this is the condition you were in, but with proper listening, with application, you can change. You can change. Now listen to this. Not change one problem for another. Change one problem person for another in your life, but change yourself. And listen to this, so that you cancel out every single difficulty and confusion that you have in your life. It sound like too much for you? I know what that did. I know how you reacted to that. First place, you reacted with skepticism, and I can understand that. Because you have never, up to this point of your life, solved a single problem. Outside of how to repair your car or fix the roof of your house or something like that. We are talking about the inner person, about your mind and about your spirit and about your feelings. If you were to come up to me and tell me all your difficulties, that you're uncertain about life, you don't know where you're going or where you're supposed to be going, you haven't found the right road, and you list off 100 of your problems to me, do you know what I'd say to you? I would tell you that I don't see a single problem at all. And I wouldn't. I wouldn't see a single problem because I wouldn't be thinking like you think. I'll tell you what I would see, though. I'd see a person who is passionately in love with creating problems. And right while you are talking to me, I see through you. Unfortunately, you don't see through yourself. You come up to me or up to any other person for that matter, and you tell them how worried you are over that event that's coming up, or how your wife or husband is treating you or not treating you, about your financial condition, about a health problem, about anything at all. I want you to know that if you spend your life doing this, which you have been doing, maybe this might come as a shock to you, and it's just about time. If this is the way you have spent your life, you've been wasting your life. Now's the time to begin to make a change. You see, there are no problems at all. There is a problem maker. And if you change the problem maker, if you change being the kind of a person you are, then you would not create all these difficulties and these strains and all these guilts and all these regrets. You would cancel them out completely because you would no longer be manufacturing them from yourself, from illusions. Now listen to this. Take fear. How many of you are afraid? You're all afraid, aren't you? You know that. You could name all the fears you have, couldn't you? And that would be your problem, that you would name all the fears. Listen to this, what I'm going to tell you. It's very important and a very key thought to what we're talking about here, of getting rid of all your problems. When you blame another person for a problem you have, when you say, I fear that man, I fear that woman, I want you to know that you are playing a very subtle, self-deceptive trick on yourself. And I'm going to tell you what it is so that you'll never ever do it again and never damage yourself again. When you say, I fear that person or that circumstance, you are trying to convince yourself that the problem is outside of you. And you're saying that over and over and over until you believe it, and you believe it now. Well, when you complain against someone, tell them how badly they've treated you or the world, society, you accuse society of not giving you what you deserve. Well, now, yes or no? Now, look. Yes or no? Are you placing that problem outside of yourself? You'll never succeed in convincing yourself that it's a fact. Now, why would we do such an utterly foolish, self-defeating thing as saying that person is the cause of my difficulties and my heartache and my loneliness? Why would we say that? First, because you do want to pretend that it's outside of you. Second, because you can pretend that it's outside of you, you can therefore evade the responsibility for seeing that you and you alone are the problem creator. Look what we've run into now. The very sad and utter reluctance of human beings to pause right in the middle of their flight through life, to pause and say, now, all these angers and all these envies and all this nervousness that I have, it must be originating somewhere. Now, just where could it be coming from? You'll try at first for a long time to place it outside of what your friends did to you in the past, or what your parents did, or the unfortunate circumstances that you had. Have you noticed that you never succeed in convincing yourself that the problem is out there? How many human beings do you suppose there are who will indeed pause, slow down, and say, for the first time in my life, I'm going to be real honest about it. I'm not going to blame anyone. I am not even going to blame myself, because then that would be another false move. Another false move, because it would have put my attention on myself and it would make me the center of something. The answer is the following. You have difficulties? Of course they exist inside of you and inside of no one else as far as you are concerned. And you can look and say, now look, here's the logical way to solve all your problems. If you want to. If you want to hang on to them, then that's up to you. And you're a very foolish human being. Now look, there's something wrong inside of me. Stop right there. Stop right there until the responsibility is so fixed. There's no way you can get out of it. You've trapped yourself, and that is a marvelous thing to do. Because when you do that, you have taken a certain amount of the right responsibility for facing the problem where it exists inside yourself, and you are not going to deceive yourself. You're not going to trick yourself anymore in order to give yourself the very temporary and the very destructive feeling of accusing others. Don't you understand that the world lives by accusation, by lashing out emotionally, forcefully, and 99% of it suppressed? And look what that does to you. If I say, look and see how you churn inside nervously all day, you understand perfectly what I'm talking about. Because you live with yourself. You know what it's like down inside there. Important point before we go on. When you blame anyone else, when you accuse anyone for anything, I don't care what they did to you, I am talking about right now. This very minute, while we are here in this room, I'm talking about right now, not what happened to you yesterday. Not what happened to you back in the 3rd grade or in high school or when you were 22 years old. I'm talking about you being a responsible man or a woman as you are listening here tonight, and say to yourself, all right, the past is the past. I'm seated here now, and right now I can begin to take responsibility for myself instead of going into my usual childishness and my usual self-destruction of saying the problem is out there. If only they would change. If only they hadn't treated me like this. Let me tell you, there very, very definitely is such a thing as spiritual courage, spiritual nobility. And the sooner you find it, you'll begin to feel the rewards of it. So that you don't have, listen, so that you don't have to trick yourself all day long and suffer from that self-trickery as you have done. Let me tell you something else that you have to start to do. You have to start to dislike. You have to start to dislike everything that is punishing you that you can't quite see yet. Don't you understand that? You know how many times you got angry today? Did you know that that was a punishment, but you couldn't help it? The reason you flared up inwardly, you didn't flare out outwardly because you wanted to be liked by that person, so you flared up inwardly. The reason you did that is because it's the only thing you knew to do. As a matter of fact, you couldn't do anything but that. You, being your own problem, must live out what you are. What a horrible way to continue to live in. If you are in love with pain, I want to tell you that there is something wrong with you. No normal, free, true mind and spirit wants anything to do with pain, with suffering, with agony. Why is there so much of it in the world? In nations, in countries, in individuals. Why is there so much of it in the world? Very simple. The great masses of human beings take great pleasure in the dramatics of being in trouble. Don't you ever again believe and love the necessity of your own pain, of your own confusion. If you do continue to love it, you will continue to have it. Unfortunately, after a while of suppressing all your angry sufferings, your suffering angers, after a while of suppressing those, unfortunately they become a way of life. And the more hardened a human being gets, the more difficult it becomes for him to toss them out. You have a chance. All of you listening right now still have a chance, because you can hear the correction here right now, and you can accept the correction. And you can begin to let it do something in favor of you instead of continuing to work against yourself as you have done up until now. You know very well that you're not a happy human being. You know how desperate you are for answers, and I am here to tell you that you are not going to find them in the place you are now looking, because you're looking inside of your own confused and mixed up mind and emotions, and you will find the answers, and they will be all wrong, just as you have done up till now. Why don't you have the courage? Why don't you have the courage of trueness and say, I am going to stop looking in the wrong places? That'll scare you. That'll put a great fear in you, which is simply the great fear that has been there all the time. But now you're becoming conscious of it, and that very consciousness of your fear is the beginning of putting an end to it. And you won't have to go around with that shakiness that you now have, with the uncertain way you talk, and the uncertain, hesitant way you think. You don't know how to behave in the smallest way. Who are you kidding? That you have all these college degrees and you have all this reputation. And you're so brave. You are not brave at all. You are lost. Well, do you resent being told that? If you resent being told that, that's part of your lostness, then that proves it. You know, I'm 100% confident in all these things I'm telling you. And there are two people who know that I'm telling you the truth. One is you, and the other one is me. So we are communicating in that sense, but I'm asking you, aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of crying all the time and covering up in front of other people? Why do you want to cover it up in front of anyone? Why do you want to cover it up in front of yourself? Look at the results of that. Any man or woman on the face of this earth who can begin to break down his pretenses and his phoniness and his stage acting, any man or woman who can begin to do that will know what real life is. He'll know what reality is. I didn't say religion. He will know what reality is, what truth is. And he will see, indeed, in fact, and you might as well face it right now, he will see, in fact, that he has thrown away his life up to this point. Now is the time to stop tossing it away. Don't kid yourself. You are not going to succeed in convincing yourself that you're on the right path, because you're not. That's why you're not going to convince yourself, because you're on the wrong path and you can feel it. And if you get angry at what I said, that proves it. See, people think that truth is out to hurt them, to take something valuable away from them. And I'll end this part of it just by saying, the only thing that wants to take away from you is your pretenses that you've got it made. Look, how do you behave when you're alone? What's the state of your mind when you're not out with your phony smiles in public places and dressing up, trying to convince yourself that you're happy, that you're going somewhere, that you're doing something? You have bad dreams, don't you? You have bad dreams because you spent the whole day in fakery and deceiving yourself and everyone else. Now, that isn't very nice. Now, is it very nice to another person to deceive them? Is it very nice to yourself to deceive yourself into thinking that you're okay when you're not okay at all? And you know exactly what that means. Let's go back 200 years to days of sailing vessels and pirates and treasure chests and treasure islands. Here's a captain gets on his ship and brings a cargo, gets a cargo and starts to take it across the seas. And he's a young captain, competent but young, inexperienced. So he takes the boat out, and when he gets out of a certain place, one of the sailors yells, "There's another ship approaching." And they all run over, on a boat. It's kind of boring at times, so they all see what's happening with that other boat. Sure enough, there's another ship approaching them, twice their size, and they begin to wonder. And the closer it gets, the scareder they get, because they see the flag on top that indicates it's indeed a pirate vessel. They try to escape it, but it's faster and stronger, and finally captures them, robs the boat, plunders, takes everything. lets them go. They pull into port, and the captain reports it and gets a new cargo and starts out again. 4 or 5 times he experiences. I'm giving you an illustration of sailing through life, and I've already explained it and made it clear to you what happens to you. What happened to him is endlessly. The boat was overtaken by pirate vessels, plundered, men beaten, back they go to port and start all over again. Finally the captain gets a little bit smart after a certain time, and he begins to wonder if just maybe there's something wrong with him that is causing these. So he asks someone in port about it, and they tell him, the problem is yours and always has been. Why didn't you ask us the difference between the pirate seas and the free seas, where we have warships of different nations protecting innocent cargo ships? You could have gone down the safe seas. Instead, you didn't ask. You already knew what was best, and you paid the consequences for it. Your life is plundered. You feel tired at night, and in the morning too, do you not? Your life is plundered because, now listen to this. This is very important that you understand what I'm going to say next. Because you do not see that you say within yourself, I know which way to sail. I know the proper lane, sea lane to take. I know how to go and avoid the pirate ships. Now look at the simple contradiction. If you knew how to avoid the pirates, other people, and your pirates and yourself, if you knew how to avoid them, then how come you encounter them? And now you get confused, you see, because I've presented the set of facts in front of you. And I'll tell you how to resolve that. You say to yourself, if I am getting attacked by pirate ships, sorrow, by attacks of anxiety, I feel lost, I feel pursued all the time. I'm always in fear of another ship on the horizon. I'm afraid of meeting other people because I don't know how to handle them, and maybe they are pirates, which they are. If you can see that you yourself have deceived yourself into thinking that you know what's safe, if you can see that you've deceived yourself, then you can ask, there is such a thing as a supreme commander, You can ask the supreme commander where the safe seas are, and he will tell you. And again, let me assure you very heartily that I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about words. I'm talking about actual experiences. That if you start with where you should start, with seeing that you're very inexperienced out on those seas, and you think you know the right directions, if you can begin to see that, just maybe, let's see if you understand the word. You can understand what it means to be so humbled by life, so broken by life, that there's no conceit left in you. There's no fight left in you. And you say, well, maybe I had better ask someone else how to sail, because I sure don't know how to do it for myself, at least safely. You do that, there can be the beginning of a miracle in your life, where you'll be absolutely safe out in this piratical world. This world where you see people who indeed want to take you, and they already have. Think of this word. The word careless. Can you maybe concede then that you've been careless over your own life? You know what careless means? Care less. You care less about your own life. Isn't it about time that you begin to value something that you've never valued before, which is the opportunity to have a different kind of a life? If you just go, and I'll tell you what being careless is, so you'll understand that. It means going around in this world hoping that people are going to treat you nice. They are not. Any more than you treat them nice. You treat them to get what you want, and they treat you to get what they want from you, right? Admit it. Nod your head. Are you going to be honest here or not? If you're going to be honest, you can begin to change. See, look, you want to be careless, and yet you want comfort. Now, you tell me how you can have both. You want to have comfort, you'd like to have rest. You understand by comfort? You'd like your life to be at ease. You don't want to worry about finances. You don't want to worry about your human relations. You don't want to worry about yourself suddenly going wild sometime. You want to have comfort, right? How can you have comfort when you're careless? When you'd rather have the excitement of sailing those seas and thinking that you of yourself can conquer the pirates. They conquered you today, didn't they? Didn't they make you worry today? Weren't you anxious today? Weren't you nervous over many things? I'll tell you, people, another thing to worry about. They see it's 12 noon and they haven't found the port yet. Out sailing the high seas and it's getting late and they want to make it before nightfall. I'll tell you how you can make it before nightfall. Listen carefully to everything you've said. Take it into your life.